Well, this evening we have the next portion of our process of elder examination. We have the opportunity to hear from Kelly Shoemaker, his personal testimony. And so looking forward to hearing from Kelly. Kelly, please come.
Good evening. It's good to see all of you. So I grew up in Fruitland, Idaho, in a religious family. We would go to church every Sunday. The church that I grew up in was theologically liberal. And what this means is that the church did not believe that the Bible was actually the living Word of God, living and inerrant. They believed it had some good principles for living, but it was not meant to be taken as absolute truth. So this meant that sin, righteousness, judgment, and salvation were never preached. I never heard anything about any of those things growing up, my whole life. So I grew up with little understanding of the Bible and spiritual things, even though I attended church every single Sunday, and I went to youth group, all of that. So growing up in this church, a couple of examples stick out that help me understand what my church was. And it's liberal. My church is liberalism. I remember being in youth group in high school one Wednesday night, and our youth leader had asked a representative of the local crisis pregnancy center, the same one that still exists there now, to come and talk to us. And strange enough, our pastor usually didn't come to our youth meetings, but he came that night. And the pastor of our church, he showed up and he started arguing with the representative about whether abortion was wrong or not. And essentially, he undercut everything right in front of all of us high school students, us impressionable high school students. He undercut everything that she had to say. And honestly, tempers flared a little bit, as you can imagine how frustrating that was for her. And she left quite frustrated. Another time in high school, one of the pastors explained to us that the Bible was written in a time, again, I was in high school, was written in a time that people didn't quite understand science. And so the writers of the Bible, not understanding, scientific cause and effect, they attributed spiritual causes to things that were merely natural, that they didn't understand. And this included all the miracles. So needless to say, growing up in that church, the type of religion that they offered to me as a young person seemed lifeless and honestly pathetic, even when I was in high school. I didn't quite understand why anyone would go to church if this is what it consisted of. Why would anyone actually go to church? And also in my early high school years, I went to a church camp with my aunt and uncle's church, which was truly a Bible-believing church. And it was there during an evangelistic meeting at this church camp that I did hear the gospel for the first time. And I went forward. There was an altar call. There was lots of tears, and I believed at that time that I became saved. And I remember going up to talk to the evangelist, and some of the things that I was saying to him, as I remember some of those things, like I had no idea what was happening. All I knew is that everyone was emotional, and I was emotional, and it felt really good to cry. But I don't think I truly understood the gospel at that time, because my life after that did not reflect that I had truly come to Christ. There was no change. Things went right back to normal. These experiences, the liberalism of the church I was raised in, and then what happened at this church camp, it kind of solidified in me the idea that religion was not of much use. It's not a good place to look for things. I didn't necessarily write religion off. I wasn't that conscious of doing that in my thinking. It just didn't seem like a relevant place to look for answers to life's questions. In fact, in my later years of high school, I couldn't wait to get to college so that I could live my life the way that I wanted to, without the what I felt was the oppressive morality of my religious upbringing. And really, that's all that it was. Essentially, was just morality. And so I couldn't wait to get to college to cast that off. I didn't feel like I could do it because I did love my parents while I was there in the home, and I didn't feel like I could do that then and there. But what's funny is it seems that God had a different idea for my life than I did. When I came to college at Boise State, I was looking for the classic college party lifestyle, what you see on TV. But I was surrounded by Christians, frustratingly so, from day one. I was randomly assigned a roommate in the dorms, and I would come in, and I would always see him sitting there reading his Bible. Every single day, he was reading his Bible. And I'd never seen this before. I'd never seen someone actually do this before. I went on a whitewater rafting trip that was part of the freshman orientation. And the only people I met on that trip were Christians. And one of my good friends, one of my best friends from high school, started getting really serious about the Lord at that time. And he was going to Boise State too. And he started talking to me about it like almost every single day. And the life, he wasn't necessarily sharing the gospel with me, but he was just talking to me about the Lord. The life that I thought that I was going to be leading in college never had a chance to come to fruition. And one evening, I went to an event hosted by Campus Crusade for Christ with some of my new friends. They presented the gospel at that time, and I listened, and they passed around comment cards, and I filled one out and put my dorm room phone number. There were no cell phones. A guy named Rock Brown from Campus Crusade for Christ gave me a call, and I met with him in the Student Union building, and he explained the gospel to me again, and he was very, very good at explaining the gospel. And I don't remember everything he said, but I remember during our conversation, I realized that I wanted Jesus more than anything that I'd ever wanted before in my life. And I wanted to follow him with all my heart. I didn't understand everything, but I knew I wanted him and that he was real. As I walked back to my dorm room after that conversation with Rock, walking back from the Student Union building to Chaffee Hall, I felt like the heavens had opened up. And Jesus Christ was revealed to me at that time. Like I said, I didn't understand everything. But I wasn't sure that my feet actually touched the ground as I walked back. And after that, I started reading the Bible, and I couldn't stop. In fact, that first semester, my grades suffered because I didn't want to do anything else but read my Bible. At times, I would intentionally leave my Bible in my room when I would go to the library to study, because if I had it with me, I wouldn't do anything else. And so that was the beginning. And throughout my college years, I became very, very involved with Campus Crusade for Christ. And it was very instrumental in my growth as a Christian. It kind of became my church. I never really got plugged into, I did go to church, but I never really got plugged in to a church here in Boise. There were two men in particular who discipled me, both Campus Crusade missionaries there at Boise State. The first man was Tom Waller, and these guys, they still, I am very shaped by these men, even still. Tom Waller's goal was that none of the men involved in his ministry would graduate from college as biblical illiterates. Every semester, he would choose a book of the Bible, and he would have us read it 5 times a week. So 50 times total. By the end of the semester, and then we would get together to discuss it. So we would study it as we were reading it 5 times a week. By the end of the semester, he could read a verse from that book of the Bible, and we could tell him what the reference was to the verse. So we did this with 2 Timothy, Ephesians, Romans, and 1 Corinthians. And this knowledge that he gave me through his efforts with these books of the Bible has been foundational to my growth as a Christian. And I still think back on those things. The second man was Steve Odemark. Steve was a man who made it a priority to love God with all of his mind. He was very much opposed to the rise of an anti-intellectual spirit within Christianity that we were starting to see. And I lived with him for a while in college, and he had this chair where he would sit and he would read for 2 or 3 hours every single night. And it was just, there were just stacks of books all around his chair where he would sit and read. He was making his way through all the classics of Western civilization, theological works, history, philosophy, science. Nothing was off limits. And he devoured these things. He went on to get his doctorate in philosophy, and now he teaches at the college level. And he would challenge me to read books that I didn't understand. And then he would tell me, you need to read books that you don't understand and try to understand them as hard as you can. And Steve ingrained into me the desire to read and also the desire to discern the truth of God in everything. After college, I became a missionary with Campus Crusade for Christ. While going through college, I couldn't see myself doing anything else but be in Christian ministry, to be a missionary. While in college ministry, so I was on staff with Campus Crusade to raise my support. I've worked with them for 7 to 8 years. And while in college ministry with Campus Crusade, I came to realize that it didn't really fit my strengths, and it accentuated my weaknesses. And the hard part, it took me a long time to come to that realization, and the hard part of coming to this realization was that unintentionally, I had come into kind of a Catholic view of vocation. That there were sacred vocations, and then there were regular everything else, secular vocations. Nobody intentionally taught me that, but for some reason I picked that up. So I bought into the lie that if you were going to be a really serious Christian, then you needed to be in full-time Christian ministry. So coming to the realization that it just wasn't working out for me the way I had dreamed, what was kind of the death of a dream. It was around this time that I read a book by Os Guinness about a Protestant view of vocation. And it was very eye-opening for me. In this book, he had a quote from Martin Luther that was very meaningful to me at the time, and it still is. Luther wrote, "The works of monks and priests, however holy and arduous they be, do not differ one whit in the sight of God from the works of the rustic laborer in the field, or the woman going about her household tasks, but that all works are measured before God by faith alone. Indeed, The menial housework of a manservant or maidservant is often more acceptable to God than all the fastings and other works of a monk or a priest, because the monk or priest lacks faith. And this helped me to understand that to leave full-time Christian work did not mean stepping away from serving Christ. Given my giftings, it meant stepping into a life of greater effectiveness in service to Christ. If all a believer does grows out of faith and is done for the glory of God, then all dualistic distinctions are demolished. That there is no sacred or secular vocations. There are only vocations, if that makes sense. And there is only work either done for the glory of God or not done for the glory of God, regardless of your line of work. And here I am now at Truth Family Bible Church, a computer programmer, and very happy to be so. Thank you.